Well, hello and welcome to episode number 333 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's show, there's talk of mass layoffs at Gatwick as passenger numbers plummet, lawsuits and unexpected quarantines make for a difficult week at EasyJet, and someone is trying to make carbon-free aviation fuel using ammonia. In the military, plane spotters at Fairford are warned by the police, and there's sad news coming out of Duxford involving the Flying Legends air display. Matt talks to Captain Al about tyre punctures in this week's Plain Truth, and James Dean shares with us his aviation in their life story. So joining me this week over in the PTUK studios with the most amazing broadband internet speed on the planet, it's Matt Smith.
I wouldn't say on the planet. I know several businesses that have got far better broadbands than what we've got here. Yes, but we've had a little bit of an upgrade here in the studio today. It's fair to say it's not been the smoothest of transitions, as it was supposed to have been done first thing this morning, and then around about lunchtime, not only did I lose the broadband here, but also the EE went down all at the same time, and I was literally thinking at 5 o'clock today whether we were going to get on air. That's how scared I was that we weren't going to get it online. But it's all come through. The engineer came back and it's all sorted. So here we are, live and online.
I'm guessing then, Matt, that anyone who's watching on YouTube can hit the quality button and switch to 1080p.
Yeah, absolutely. They can see our ugly muds in actual HD this week, which is so it's a bit of a first, a bit of an experiment. Who knows? We might have to restart several times off the back of it. We'll see how we go. But the broadcast tower is performing well. So,
but at least now you're on a decent connection, because we know we that is why we had the 4G and kind of dongle in place, because your broadband speeds to your home were.
Yes, I don't know why. It's weird, isn't it? Because I can actually see the exchange from my house, which is ridiculous. Carlos can't see the exchange from his house, and his broadband has been fabulous for a long time, but because he hasn't got any spare rooms and Gemma said no to us converting one of the spare bedrooms, we ended up having to do it in my house instead of the new studio. But there we are. It's all part of the fun, isn't it?
So
anyway, this is very boring to everyone. Should we move on?
This week you may notice that we are missing Armando. Unfortunately, Armando is working, so he can't be with us this evening, but he sent us in some military stories, so don't panic. And also Nev can't be with us this week. He's been too busy flying around Europe in his G6000
I think
private jet.
Literally just got back from Edinburgh, I think. So he's literally just walked in the door at home, I think.
He's they had to obviously get the red carpets and stuff ready for his arrival, and that's obviously taken a lot of time up. So Nev won't be with us tonight, unfortunately. But we have got a incredible
super subs. Can you see super subs? That's
super
what we
subs.
need. Yeah,
super
absolutely.
subs. And he's everyone's favourite main man. It is, of course, our main man, Micah.
Batting second string for the Plain Talking UK podcast, it's main man Micah coming to you from Portland, Maine.
That's the best radio voice I think I've heard in a long time. Where do I sign? Yeah.
How are you, Micah? How are things in Maine?
I'm doing just great. We have had some gorgeous, gorgeous weather that's going to come to an end tomorrow, but just beautiful, warm, dry days, gorgeous sun, just been absolutely spectacular. And as many of our listeners know, last week I had a wonderful airplane experience too. So I thought I'd celebrate by wearing my 2020 Oshkosh t-shirt.
Right. How was Oshkosh? Did you enjoy it this year?
Me too.
You know, this was the best Oshkosh I have ever attended. It just was absolutely fabulous.
How were the crowds,
and,
just out of interest?
not as big as I thought, really. But, I've been told that there would be a lot of airplanes and a lot of people that I knew. And, it's like I felt like I was the only one there.
Oh, that's I don't know, both sweet and sad all at once, isn't it? Really?
But I have you guys, and that's really all I need.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry to hear that. That really is sad news. Everybody's going to be crying into their beer now, honestly.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Micah. It's very kind of you. I know you've obviously got a busy schedule. I think most days, Micah, haven't you, over there?
Well, we've been trying to connect for days and days and days, and we just can't. But then there is that 5-hour time difference that sort of gets in the way.
Yes, we'll gloss over that and move on, shall we? Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
so it's point of note actually for everyone who's watching in the world of YouTube, because that lovely background that Matt's got behind him was supplied this week by Neil Lanwarn, and that is of course the Super Guppy there, which is over at Bruntingthorpe. And actually, it's point of note that with the Bruntingthorpe Open Days finally over, as some of you may have heard, having succumbed to the car storage business. Oh, it looks hideous from above, I tell you. Groups leaving left, right and centre, and the beloved Guppy with a very uncertain future. He said that Neil sent this in and thought we might like this moody shot that he took in 2014. One of his favourites from the party nights that they had, the open days. And this particular shot, which is behind Matt, was taken shortly before an immense storm. Actually, yeah, looking at that, it does look like quite a big storm coming. But Neil would like to say, actually, a big thanks to everyone who has supported everything over at Bruntingthorpe over the years with the Cold War Jet show and everything. So
it's very sad, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm just so very glad that me and Nev got the chance.
Yeah, you and Nev went, didn't you? You had the full guided tour with Neil and everything, didn't you? Yeah, so thanks for sending that in, Neil. That was sent to us by Neil Landwarn. He sent that to us on Facebook, and if you wish to do the same.
And I want to point out that my background is brought to you by my obsessive compulsive pack rack nature of never being able to clean out my office. So just in case anybody knows, that's a photo that I take every day. So just in case before anybody comments.
See what you did there.
So big thanks to everyone who's joined us for the live show this evening. We've got some new names, new faces in the chat room this evening. All the usual family members. We've got Auntie Liz in there, Richard Adams, Nick Codling, Ernest Gonzalez. Hello to you, Ernest. Ernesto, thank you for joining us. Mash is in there as well. We've got Lane Street. Nick Codling, just scrolling down, make sure I don't miss anyone. Brian Coleman, hello to you, Brian.
Heard of him, yeah.
Heard of him. Alan White, hello to you, Alan. The Captain Cruise, hello to you, the Captain Cruise. Oliver, or Ollie, you're in there as well. Hello to you, Ollie. Nice of you to join us.
We're not going to have a go at his surname, are we? I think we offended him earlier in the pre-show.
The lovely European pilot, Myla, is also in there. Bless her. Nice to see you, Myla. Just scrolling down.
Stephen Howland's just joined us as well.
Mark Davey, hello to you, Mark Davey. Yeah, Stephen Howland, hello to you. And also for those of you who are watching through YouTube, and although all those who watch or listen to the show through audio means, don't forget to follow us on YouTube and also subscribe and hit the bell icon, and you'll get notifications just like I did when we went live to tell you that we're live and broadcasting the shows. And then you can join us in the chat room with everyone else each week, which is
you panicked a bit there, didn't you, because it did the alert, because it gives you like a half-hour warning. Don't forget it starts at 7. You had a little bit of a panic.
I got a notification.
Pressed the go button a bit early, didn't you?
I was like, Matt, I've got a notification, we're live, it's 6:30.
No, remain calm. Oh, Pip's just joined us as well, look.
Hello, Pip.
Yeah, long time no see. We ought to get him on the show, I think, again. We haven't had him on for far too long, have we? We need to put that right.
A brief ahoy from Pip this week. And actually, brief ahoy, he says.
A shipping term.
Is while we are live, and while we have Masha in the chat room as well, I'm going to say a big thanks to Masha for sending me this amazing little piece of Maltese history, I should say. There we go. If you can see that on...
Isn't that nice?
And that is a air transport for Malta through the years. So we've got all the various... And they're actually stamps, actual stamps.
Yeah, you're not going to use them though, are you?
Which I'm not going to use. No, I'm not going to use.
For no other reason, they probably won't work here. But
but no, that was very nice to come home and see that on the doorstep from our Royal Mail have been delivered. So thanks for that, Masha. Very much appreciated.
Pip's shorts say hi, apparently. A brief ahoy from it. Lane, I do worry about Lane sometimes. There we go. Anyway, there we are. Should we do something vaguely aviation related now?
Yeah, I think we have. So we are.
Hang on, before we move on, have we done all the things that are in our notes? Because if we get them wrong, we'll be getting complaints from our producer.
I think we've done everything. Yeah,
tick. Tick all the boxes.
Tick all the boxes. Don't say that, because our producer John will probably put tick boxes next to the
he will.
show.
He will. He absolutely.
So we are going to start the show, and as we do each week with our rundown, he's going to do it, of the weekly news from around the world.
You've given him an idea, you realise that, don't you?
No. So if everyone's ready.
I'm ready. How about you, Micah?
All set to go.
Splendid. Let's press the button.
So, kicking off this week's first news story, and we do try each week to try and pick some happy stories, but it is incredibly hard, as you can probably imagine right now. But this one, very sad indeed. This is on the ITV.com website. And Gatwick Airport here in the UK to axe 600 jobs as passenger numbers down by 80%. So Gatwick has announced this week it's cutting 600 jobs, roughly a quarter of all its staff. It comes after the airport announced passenger numbers were down by 80% this month compared to August 2019. The airport said the proposed organisation redesign will reshape the company so it's best placed to respond quickly to future growth. The proposal could result in 24% of the current number of employees losing their job. The company took rapid action to protect the airport back in March to preserve as many jobs as it could by reducing costs, managing cash outflows and securing a £300 million bank loan, Gatwick said. Gatwick is currently operating from just its North Terminal in response to the drop in demand. And compared to this time last year, the airport was operating at around 20% of its capacity and still has more than 75% of its staff on the furlough scheme, which is due to end in October this year. Gatwick Airport CEO Stuart Wingate said that if anyone is in any doubt about the devastating impact of COVID-19 has to have on aviation travel industry, then today's news, or this week's news, they shared with our staff regarding proposed job losses is a stark reminder. He said that we are ongoing talks with the government to see what sector-specific support we can be put in place for the industry at this time, alongside mechanisms which will give our passengers greater certainty on where and when they can safely travel abroad. This support will not only help Gatwick, but the wider regional economy, which relies on the airport. He said that I want to take this opportunity, he said, to thank all of the staff and to those who've worked tirelessly to keep Gatwick open through the pandemic and to those who have had to. So, it's really bad. Obviously, both Gatwick and Heathrow are massive employers within the London area, as we all know. Perhaps we're a little bit more aware of what's been going on at Heathrow because obviously Nev's flown out of there even in these times. Recently, you kind of forget Gatwick. Yeah, and I do wonder. I do wonder if maybe the impact at Gatwick has been worse because of maybe because of its location and things like that. And
well, I wanted to ask you guys a little bit about Gatwick because I have never flown into Gatwick, although it's an option that I would have here from the U.S. But from what I understand, it's more of a tourist airport, is it not? Not so much business travel, and it's the business travel that's picking up. And at least here in the USA, some of the predictions I've seen is not to really expect the airlines to be coming back as far as tourists go until maybe 2024. Yeah. So, is that? Do you think that's what's causing it? Because of some of the business travel? After all, Nev, our businessman at large, is traveling quite a bit, but he's going to Heathrow. Is that where it's coming from? Yeah, a lot of the airlines that operate from Gatwick, Micah, are the big
tourist people,
package tour operator
like
airlines,
people like that, isn't it? Yeah,
and it's effective.
And Virgin at one time were based quite heavily out there as well. Although Virgin is sort of most major airports, isn't it? It's one of the some of the early holidays that I had growing up, and it was Gatwick that we were flying out to with. I'm trying. Air 2000, I think, was the first. I know that's going back a bit, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. We flew out to Greece. I think one of the first ever plane trips I ever remember.
Can I just point something out, Matt?
Yeah, go on.
Do you know what Air 2000 used to predominantly fly?
Oh,
the type of aircraft.
They're going to be 757s, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't mind them as a kid. It's just the one on the States that tried to kill me. That's the only reason that put me off. That's the only thing. But back to the story that we're talking about here. Obviously, is that the case? I suppose that the US model, Micah, is perhaps difficult to compare to our own because obviously in the States there's a lot more what I call domestic flying, isn't there, where you're flying into state, perhaps, where in some cases perhaps that's not been impacted quite so badly as the tourist traffic.
Yeah, here in the USA, it's 3,000 miles from coast to coast. And if you look at just New England, which is only, 5 states, 6 states? I can't imagine. I'd have to count them up right now. Let me see. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Those 5 states together are about the size of Western Europe.
Yeah.
So, and those are just 5 states, and they're not necessarily the largest states.
Yeah.
So, most of the travel in the U.S., or a good majority of the travel in the U.S. is domestic. Whereas, if we go on holiday, we're going within the country. We're going from here in Maine, maybe down to Florida over the winter, where you guys would be going to Spain, flying over 2 or 3 different countries.
Indeed. So, I mean, has it remained sort of fairly stable in the States, certainly domestic? Wise?
No, the numbers are way, way down. I mean, that's why Delta can keep its middle seat. Delta, JetBlue, and a few others can keep their middle seats empty and guarantee that they're going to be empty. But I don't know if we have it on today's show notes. I haven't gone through them completely yet. I don't think we have. But American just announced tremendous layoffs, 2,000 people, I believe, maybe more. I can't remember exactly. So no, the numbers are way down, and I don't know when they're going to come back. You have to remember that the tourist business is like cruise. It's bare cash, and it's when you have free time and you're not afraid to travel. So
and everybody, understandably, at the moment, it's funny times at the moment. However you dress it up.
I'd be curious to ask our chat room as tourists or vacationers, would they be willing to travel now?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Sorry, I've just seen a comment. Brian Coleman's just put in the chat room. Apparently, it was United that tried to kill me, not with a 757, which is probably a fair statement, to be honest with you.
And hello to Jenny in Rome, by the way.
Yeah,
just
she's just
come in the
us.
chat room.
Yeah,
hello to
absolutely, yes. But as I say, we're trying something new with our chat room where we're using something called ultra low latency. So do please get any comments that you want to make about our various stories this week straight in, because hopefully we'll see them a bit sooner than we have done in the past. It's hot it's hot in Rome, is it? Oh wow. Okay, all right for some. As I say, it's my heating actually kicked in this morning. That's not a good sign, is it? Because we're a bit weird here, because I leave the thermostat on like 20. I think we only have it set to like 19 or something silly. So basically, if the house drops below 19, the heating kicked in. And
we got 17 this week actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's not like not fly. So Brian's actually suggested here. We'll go back to the subject at hand. Brian's just saying actually not flying until a vaccine has been widely distributed, which I can see that. I suppose that the question as to whether a vaccine is possible, I guess, is a question for people far more qualified than us, I guess. But I mean, you were Carlos, you and Nev were literally going to go to Malta. I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, maybe not so much you, because you're weird and love flying. But I mean, genuinely, how was Gemma feeling about the trip? I mean, had you had that conversation about flying?
I mean, bearing in mind she works for the health service here in the UK, so it's a very big thing. But not worried at all. She's the same mindset as me. You wear a mask and you do everything that you've been told to do by the government, washing hands, blah blah blah. Yeah. Just get on with it.
Yeah.
That's true. And get on the plane and get on with it. It's a 3-hour flight. It's not like you're sitting on an aircraft for 9 or 10 hours. It's a 3-hour flight.
Mind you, I must say, it's a slightly different subject, but I actually spent, as I say, many of you know that I've been doing a different job during lockdown, and I actually spent 2 days in the Naked Wines office this week.
Ooh.
And I have to say, it took me probably about 2 hours for my heart rate to drop, because it's literally the first time that I've actually been with other people that doesn't involve a camera, like since March. I mean, it's one of those weird things, isn't it? I've seen people, and I've come and had a socially distanced coffee with you in the past, and all that kind of thing. Like, my best mate's been out in the garden, Geordie, he's been in the garden, and we've had a beer together, but it's been, again, keeping that distance. It's just, I don't know.
Well, if your heart rate was that bad, Matt, obviously you need to be sampling the product more.
Trust me, I did on the Wednesday night. There's on the Tuesday night. Sorry, sorry. Lane's got a little bit distracted because he's just said, "Did Matt actually say that he spent 2 days naked?" No. I spent 2 days naked in Wine's office. Honestly, our listeners are.
Oh, you mean
terrible.
you don't have to be naked to drink it?
No,
okay,
no.
Now
Not.
I understand.
No,
Okay.
No, absolutely no. Fully clothed is expected. Sadly, it's one of those. But I must admit, it sort of kind of reminded me how much I miss talking to people. Like, I mean, these Zoom calls and things have been brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but of course, it isn't the same as interacting one-on-one with people, is it?
No,
and that's the one thing that I think we're all missing. And it's just, I hope that your prediction, Micah, is wrong. I really do. I really hope that perhaps that people will be going back on holiday and things, but I fear you're probably right, because we're struggling to find light at the end of the tunnel at the moment, aren't we? I think really. I mean, certain restrictions have started to be lifted and that, but we're not there really. So Captain Cruz is actually saying in the chat room here, he's saying that commuting to work with a bus and subway 2 to 3 times a week shouldn't be any different than being on an airplane, but no reason to go anywhere other than pleasure. So that's all on hold, which again makes sense, doesn't it? It's everybody's getting a little
I love
bit,
the chat room.
I know, absolutely. There's several comments there that I can't read out loud.
Yeah.
But
moving on.
What we'll do, shall I move on and do the next story? Shall I
move on to the next story? And I like this story. This is one of those stories talking about a text message that I don't think no one ever wants to receive.
No, absolutely not. And I'm hoping, because certainly just by reading the headline, there was certainly some rather concerning sort of elements to this story, but hopefully it'll become clear. So this is on the eveningstandard.co.uk. Got a little video that I'm going to play when I've finished as well, that was taken by one of the passengers that were on board. Ryanair passenger removed from Stansted flight after receiving text saying he'd just received that he got coronavirus. So many questions there suddenly popped into my head. Dramatic footage has captured the moment officials wearing full hazmat suits boarded a Ryanair flight at Stansted Airport after a passenger tested positive for coronavirus. A short clip shared on social media revealed the incident, which happened to be on a Pisa-bound flight shortly before takeoff on Wednesday, according to a Ryanair spokesman. The passenger and his travel companion, who had not been named, were escorted off the plane by the airport's fire service team after the passenger received a positive test result via text alert before departure. The couple were transferred to the airport's isolation area and met by public health authorities, while holidaymakers were told to remain seated on the plane. In the clip posted to Twitter by a fellow passenger, a group of 3 officials wearing full personal protective equipment can be seen sweeping a pair of seats while a flight attendant continues to carry on routine checks. The overhead cabin bins were also disinfected before the flight was allowed to head to Italy, an hour and 20 minutes behind schedule, Ryanair confirmed. Another passenger posted a picture of themselves wearing a face mask on social media, captioned, "The face when you're about to take off and someone gets a text from Track and Trace." So a Ryanair spokesperson told the Evening Standard that a passenger who boarded a flight from London Stansted to Pisa on Wednesday the 26th of August received a text message notification before departure that he had tested positive for COVID-19. The passenger and his companion were immediately offloaded and taken to a Stansted Airport isolation area, where they were assisted by local public health authorities. Since this passenger and his companion had complied fully with Ryanair's health regulations, they were both wearing masks at all times at Stansted Airport, and for the very short period, less than 10 minutes. They were seated on the aircraft prior to departure. There was little, if any, risk of transmission to other passengers or crew members, as all of whom were also wearing face masks at the time. The aircraft departed for Pisa following a delay of an hour and 20 minutes to allow for the empty seats and overhead bins to be disinfected to comply with all UK Health Authority guidance. Ryanair apologises for any convenience caused by the short delay. A Stansted Airport spokesperson said that the airport were made aware of the passenger by the airline, and our fire service attended the aircraft and escorted the passenger and travel partner to an isolation area where they were put in contact with Public Health England, who then oversaw the passenger's onward journey. The NHS England website states that any person experiencing symptoms should remain at home. Advice from the Department of Health and Social Care says if you are getting a coronavirus test because you have symptoms, you and anyone you live with must self-isolate until you get the result. This also applies to anyone in your support bubble. The Department for Health and Social Care advises anyone with symptoms across the UK to get a test as soon as possible. There's more to this story, but I won't go on. I mean, the biggest thing here is clearly they'd obviously had a test taken. Now, I think the turnaround here, is 2 to 3 days, is it? Something like that before you get your result here in the UK. I mean, they shouldn't have been trying to get on an aeroplane. In my personal opinion,
no.
You know, I mean, this is, I don't know. I mean, there's many questions here. It's like, how did they find out about the text message? Because I presume the passengers weren't shouting. The passengers involved weren't shouting about it. But unless it came.
How would you feel if you were on a row behind them?
Nervous is the short answer. I'd sort of think, oh blimey, have I had it? And I mean, I don't know if you've had the misfortune of having a test done, Carlos, but I can assure you it's not a pleasant experience.
I'll give that one a miss.
Yeah, I would if I were you. And what's the turnaround time for the test in the States at the moment, Micah?
You know, it really varies. Sometimes I've heard it's as long as 10 days and 2 weeks. And sometimes I've heard that it's 2 days and 3 days. And then a test just came out yesterday that they were announcing that is only a pretty instant and doesn't require them poking the front of your brain with a.
Right. Okay. That's the one I had. That was not an interesting experience. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, surely the issue here is the very fact that, you know, if they felt that they needed to have a test, they shouldn't have been getting on that aeroplane, should they?
Well, you know, of course, here in the USA, we have an executive office that wants less testing. So I won't get any more political than that, but that's been made known very quickly. I mean, that's public knowledge.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a funny one, really, isn't it? Anyway, we could go on, but we probably should.
Well, just before we move on, Matt, just
go on. Yeah.
One of the biggest things about this whole story on the Evening Standard or the Standard is halfway down the story, they've got a lovely picture. After they've used the correct picture at the top of the story, halfway down they've got a picture of a Titan Airways Airbus A321.
Oh, stop it. Oh, actually, there is a little shot. Let me just play that little video, what I was talking about there.
Yeah, I'd be worrying now.
Yeah, that would... Yeah. Yeah, there we are. Well, you know, I think we all know the mistake there, don't we? Really, I mean, that's a very silly thing for somebody to think that's okay to do, isn't it? Anyway, Micah, I think the next story is with you.
Yes, it is, and it's from Simple Flying, one of our favorite little websites.
Very
and it's an
much so.
EasyJet story.
Whee!
And EasyJet has been sued after a passenger was moved on a flight to London. And, this is a very annoying story, I have to say. Low-cost airline EasyJet has found itself in hot water. A British-Israeli passenger filed a lawsuit against the airline after she had to move seats at the request of an ultra-Orthodox man and his son. The Jewish duo refused to sit beside the woman because of her gender. Melanie Wolfson has sued the London-based airline on the grounds of discrimination. She sought the expertise of the Israeli Religious Action Center, Iraq, to handle the case. According to Haaretz Meitel Arbel from Iraq, who's representing the 38-year-old Wolfson is pushing for $19,537. That's 66,438 shekels, or I'm guessing around 16,000 pounds, more or less, in compensation from EasyJet. Apparently, Wolfson had to take a flight from Tel Aviv to London on October 10th in 2019. The trip started at Ben Gurion Airport, and that's where everything took place. Haaretz reported that Wolfson paid an extra fee to opt into the aisle seat, as you pay fees for everything on EasyJet. The ultra-Orthodox man and his son were already seated at the window in the middle seat. and the middle seat. When Wolfson settled in, the man's son removed himself from his seat and started looking for a man who would change places with her. Once his son returned, the father, without making eye contact with Wolfson, asked her to switch seats with another man seated a few rows in front. At this point, Wolfson refused to move. A flight attendant had purportedly offered the woman a free beverage if she complied with the man's request. Eventually, Wolfson adhered so as not to delay the flight on her account, but she told Haaretz it was the first time she was discriminated against based on her gender. Well, she should come to the U.S. where there's a lot more discrimination. Anyway, that wasn't in the article. She encountered a similar incident 2 months later, which was also after her first official complaint to the airline. In the second incident, she was traveling to London once more. This time, 2 ultra-Orthodox men requested for Wolfson to move. Wolfson stood her ground, which resulted in 2 women switching seats with the men instead. And it goes on to say that ultra-Orthodox Jews practice Haredi Judaism. It may be also known as Hasidism, which is a more conservative compared to modern Orthodox Judaism. And they're requesting a policy change. It's, it's one of those things, if you're going to travel in a public environment, you have to deal with the public and assimilate with that. And I understand that people have different beliefs and different religious systems, but what would have happened if it was a Hispanic or a black or an Asian person? They'd want to sit next to them based on race. It makes, I just don't understand exactly.
The whole, it's a very hot topic in general, isn't it? Things like this at the moment. So perhaps we'll stay a little bit away from the finer details, I suppose, for the moment. But I mean, I've said it before, loads of times. I just find it very sad that there's any kind, in this day and age, that there's any kind of I don't know. I suppose racism is perhaps not the word I'm looking for, but discrimination based on colour, gender, your religious beliefs, whatever. I mean, it's just like in this day and age, I find the whole thing really
frustrating,
exhausting.
Yeah.
It's not on, is it? I mean, not in this day and age. People should be allowed
chat room,
to look
Masha?
after themselves. Oh yes, okay, all right. Sorry, I was at the wrong screen. You read it.
Sorry, we're so used to John saying in our ear.
Yes, absolutely.
Chat room. Chat room. Masha says in the chat room, why didn't the couple book the whole row?
Which is a very good point, actually. I suppose you could have done that, couldn't you? Really, if that is your, if you feel that strongly about it, there are ways of you doing it, and I don't know.
Captain Cruz, Micah might know about this, but Captain Cruz in the chat room says no correlation to the story of the woman who intended to board a Spirit flight in the US some time ago.
I don't remember that one offhand. No, I don't. Maybe Captain Cruz can give us a little more information on that.
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. As I say, this is the thing. In this day and age, it's just like I literally, as I say, it could be a monkey flying the aeroplane for all I care, as long as they're qualified. It's not, and that's not.
Well, and oftentimes, with some of the captains, we know it is a monkey flying.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's something about paying them peanuts, but perhaps we should walk away from that dangerous.
Let's be honest. There's plenty of peanuts about these days. With there's a few stories I've heard about companies selling airline peanuts.
Okay,
and then they can't be peanuts anymore anyway because people are allergic to peanuts. So we have to go to almonds and cashews. Cashew gesundheit.
See what you did there.
And moving on to the next story.
Indeed, yes, quick.
Before I go nuts.
Abort. Oh.
This is. I know. I had to drop that one in. This is on the
7:33. Everyone, it's gone downhill already.
John, are you there? John?
No.
This is a 1 mile at a time website, and the headline: Delta pilots angry their jobs are being outsourced. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So while Delta in general is the best labour relations of the big 3 US carriers, the company's pilots have had a serious disagreement with the management over scope for several years now. The union representing the pilots is once again bringing this to the forefront, especially as Delta pilots are about to face layoffs. So Delta Airlines chapter of the Airline Pilots Association, or ALPA, is bringing up major scope issues once again, claiming that Delta is outsourcing pilot jobs in an unacceptable way. So Delta Airlines has spent the past many years building up a global network of airline partners through a combination of joint ventures and equity investments. In a note to members, ALPA is expressing concerns about how the pandemic has reduced flying to negligible levels and that flying is added back. Delta's joint ventures partners are recovering, flying faster and disproportionately compared to Delta. The union provides the following examples, it says here, of how flying is being added back with joint venture partners. And there's lots of figures here across the Pacific. Korean Air operates 39 flights a week, while Delta operates 15 per week. Across the Atlantic, Air France operates 39 flights per week, while Delta operates 18 per week to France. Across the Atlantic, Virgin Atlantic is operating 6 additional flights per week compared to Delta.
I mean, it's a bit of a, I don't know. I never like the word outsourcing. It doesn't matter what industry it's in. It's and also as Micah was saying, of course, these in a time of layoffs at Delta as well, it makes it all highly questionable. And of course, I think it was announced. Was it yesterday? I think it was, Micah, wasn't it, about United Airlines saying on Thursday that it needs to cut 2,850 pilot jobs between the 1st of October and the 30th of November if the government doesn't extend an aid package to help airlines cover employee payroll for another 6 months while they weather the coronavirus pandemic. So I mean, it's obviously Delta. It's a grey area, isn't it? Outsourcing when laying off people. I'm not sure that wouldn't be allowed here in the UK, certainly.
At the same time, they talked about using Virgin Atlantic, if I remember in the story. Did you not? And Delta owns 49% of Virgin Atlantic. So is that outsourcing?
Well, no, it's just one would argue perhaps not, isn't it? Because it's just using resources that they that the group has at its disposal, I suppose. So maybe, but yeah.
Actually, it's worth pointing out one of the good things that Delta's doing is they are installing hand sanitizer stations on all their aircraft. Just a point of note.
I think, to be fair, then they're not the only ones doing that, actually, I think, are they? I mean, a lot of the airlines are doing that. Certainly the airports have really geared themselves up to sort of making things as secure as they can. But, it is what it is at the moment, I guess. So we move on to...
And, wait a minute.
Yeah,
before we do, Brian has a very good point.
Okay.
I don't know if we can pull that up in the chat room.
Give me a moment. Go on.
But it's a good point. Why should the government pay for people who are no longer required? It will cost the government over $300,000 per airline employee. And... That's just it makes a lot of sense. I hate to see the airlines go bankrupt. I hate to see people lose their jobs, but again, if the government's paying for it, we talk about the government, but who's the government? That's us.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, here in the UK, obviously, we've been in lots of ways, we've been very lucky because here in the UK we have had this furlough scheme that I know many employers have taken advantage of, including obviously the coach company that I work for, because in our case there is literally nobody. I mean, who wants to go on a bus to London at the moment? I mean, it's just nobody wants.
Well, if you were driving, I would go.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. We'd get terribly lost.
He's a very good driver, Micah. Very good driver.
Yeah, you fall asleep whenever we go.
I fall asleep every time.
It's like every time we go anywhere, I'm sort of chatting away to him. I look over and think, he's fallen asleep again. What's going on? But no, it's one of those, isn't it? The thing is, of course, now, I mean, these schemes have to come to an end, don't they? I mean, however it's a great way of propping things up initially, but of course, that is the thing, isn't it? Now we're a long way into. I mean, bearing in mind a lot of these schemes started back in March, and we're now sort of about to hit September. Now these schemes are coming to an end. I think all industries are going to be laying off people left, right, and centre, aren't they? I mean, there's only going to be a handful of industries that aren't damaged by what's been going on with this virus.
And I think back in March, we didn't know how long it was going to last. So we propped things up until we could make some determinations and do some analysis. Yeah. If the analysis is saying that it's not going to be 6 months or it's not going to be a year, but it's going to be multiple years, then how long can it go on? How long can it be afforded to go on?
Indeed. This is it. And of course, I mean, these are big, scary numbers, aren't they, that we're talking about here? I mean, if we carry on as we are, governments across the world will all be bankrupt, won't they? I mean, it's which is a harsh reality, I know, but it's so worrying, isn't it? Especially when so many of us got so many close friends that all work in the industry. it's worrying times indeed.
So, Matt, the next story for you is good news for a certain cricket team.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. So there are pictures with this, which I'll try and pop up towards the end here.
A very lucky cricket team.
Yeah, well, absolutely. This is the thing. Obviously, I know it's a big no-no as far as you're concerned, isn't it? Because it's that word sport that makes you go into a deep coma, isn't it? I know, but and Michael will probably say cricket is a sport that nobody will ever truly understand. But it's executive travel. Have you ever watched cricket, by the way, Micah?
No, he has sense.
Right, fair enough. He's nodded off. Right, fair enough. Okay, so the Australian cricket team has all business class Perth to UK flight. This is the story. Australians cricket squad is now resting up at the mid-England city of Derby ahead of next month's round of T20 and one-day international matches after a 19-hour journey involving 2 stopovers at Colombo and Dubai in a chartered all-business class jet from French boutique airline La Compagnie. Now we've spoken about this before, haven't we? Absolutely. This airline has got a bit of a rep for doing stuff like this. So in previous years, the teams would hop on a commercial flight, and if it wasn't for the dreaded word, that probably would still been the case with Qantas Airbus A380s from Sydney to London via Singapore, or the Qantas Boeing 787 non-stop from Perth to London. But with all the international Qantas flights being grounded, while all of the A380s and most of the Boeing 787s stand idle in California's Mojave Desert, Cricket Australia went casting around for an alternative. They found it in the grounded fleet of a La Compagnie. We had this discussion last time, and I can't remember how I was supposed to say it. La Compagnie, I want to say.
La Compagnie.
Yeah, or La Company, if you wish.
The company.
The company, which usually shuttles a pair of all business class A321 Neo jets daily between France, Paris and Nice and New York, but in March 2020 suspended flights until mid-September due to travel restrictions between the two countries. Outfitted for high-flying executives, the Airbus A321neo also proved a suitable ride for 21 of Australia's elite cricketers. La Compagnie flew the jet. I'm trying to do my best French here. I'm sorry, don't laugh. Chartered to Cricket Australia.
Just call them the posh airline.
The posh airline, yes. So the posh airline flew the jet, chartered to Cricket Australia at an undisclosed price from Paris to Mumbai to Perth, where it collected the White Ball squad, most of whom had in turn flown in from ports around the country, including a Qantas Boeing 737 from Sydney. With 76 business class seats from tip to tail, the A321neo offered plenty of room for players, coaches and support staff. The seats all convert into fully lie flat beds, handy for the overnight legs of journeys, or when you're simply too tired or too bored to do anything else but nap, which you so wouldn't be doing on a jet like that, would you, Carlos? Let's be honest. In addition to the 15-inch in-flight entertainment screens and noise-cancelling headphones as standard, the jet comes with fast in-flight Wi-Fi, although it's not known if this was active for the charter flight. I bet it was. However, as the small single-aisle A321neo lacks the globe-striding range of the Airbus A380 or the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, the journey from Perth to Derby was divided into 3 stints. The flight left Perth in the evening of Sunday the 23rd for a 7-hour and 40-minute trek to Colombo. 1 hour later, it was wheels up for the short 4-hour hop to Dubai. Then it was time for the final leg of the journey, a 7-hour, 30-minute direct flight to East Midlands Airport, which is usually served by low-cost airlines such as Ryanair and Jet2 for UK domestic and European short range destinations. The team will reportedly spend several days in a hotel attached to Derby's cricket ground before the 3-hour bus ride to Southampton's Rose Bowl, where the first of 3 T20 matches will be played in from September the 4th to the 6th, with 3 one-day internationals at Manchester's Old Trafford from September the 11th to the 16th. Now, this is very much a flight you would have loved to have got on, wasn't it, Carlos? Let's be honest. I'm gonna while you just talk amongst yourselves for a minute, I'm actually going to try and pop some pictures up, if I may. So, I mean, how much would you have loved to have been on this flight, Micah? Let's be honest.
Right now, I would love to be on any flight.
Well, there is
It doesn't
that.
matter. Get me in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. It's as I say, we've mentioned this company before, haven't we?
We had some feedback sent in, didn't we?
We did. That's right. Yeah. Who sent that in?
That was from Chris, who sent that feedback.
Ah, yes, that's right. Yes. Beautiful aircraft, wasn't it? There's no two ways about it. It's as I say, I'm just trying to find some of the pictures here. This is the trouble. This is the trouble when I did the show notes and forgot that I sometimes have to put pictures up. But
if I remember correctly, the La Campagne, I think that's what it is. La Campagne.
Nobody knows
Captain Cruz had mentioned they had an all 757-200 fleet. They were a company that offered high-end, all business class flights, if I remember correctly, from New York into Paris. I can't remember which airport it was, Orly, I believe. And they were a low-cost business class airline, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a way to travel, though. I mean, because it's a hell of a flight, however you dress it up. And ironically, it probably didn't take that much longer than it would have done on a more direct route, really, would it? Because it's
actually, if anyone's wondering anything or wondering what La Campagne is, if you take yourselves over to episode 321 and 322, we actually ran a 2-part feedback from Chris Marsh, who flew on the airline. So, yeah, if you take yourselves to 321, 322, there is a segment on there.
You've got John in your ears and keeping him all to yourself. Is that that's the sort of thing that
I've done it, John. Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, very good. He'll be very pleased with that.
Yeah.
Yes, he'll be very proud of you, I have no doubt. Anyway, the next story, Micah, is with you.
Yes, and it comes to us from the new Atlas. And
this story stinks.
Yeah, it really does. It's really smelly, but unfortunately I can clean my windows. Reaction Engines and Britain's Science and Technology Facilities Council, that's the STFC, have completed a concept study of the practicality of using natural gas as jet aviation fuel. Ammonia as jet aviation fuel. By teaming Reaction Engine's heat exchanger technology with STFC's advanced catalysts, they hope to produce a sustainable, low-emission propulsion system for tomorrow's aircraft. It goes on to say that modern jet engines use a variety of fuels based on kerosene, as if we didn't know that. They all have a very high energy density that propel aircraft well beyond the speed of sound, and not all aircraft, but can propel aircraft well beyond the speed of sound and carry passengers and cargoes across the globe. But unfortunately, such fuels are derived from fossil fuels and produce significant carbon dioxide emissions, which the airline industry and many governments have pledged to reduce radically by 2050. One way of achieving these cuts is to look at alternatives to conventional jet fuels to power airliners. The problem is that most of those alternatives have much lower energy densities than standard aviation fuels, and like, for example, as we all know, present-day battery technology would require future aircraft to be very small, very short range, and have little payload. But liquid hydrogen, which could be a viable alternative, but so much it would need to be, they need to carry so much that the planes would have to be completely and totally redesigned, and there need to be new infrastructure built all over. Using ammonia as an aviation fuel, however, isn't new. It only has a third of the energy of density of diesel, which is kerosene. It's relatively easy to liquefy and store, and it's already been used by some aircraft that we know and love. For example, the X-15 rocket plane, one of the aircraft that Neil Armstrong used to fly. The tricky bit is finding an economically viable way to use ammonia in aviation. But to solve the problem, Reaction Engines produced a new propulsion system based on the heat exchanger technology it developed with Sabre hypersonic for its Sabre hypersonic engine, and that was evaluated by STFC's Rutherford Appleton Laboratory. In the new system, ammonia is stored as chilled and pressurized liquid in the wings of the airplane, just as kerosene is today, but the heat harvested from the engine by a heat exchanger would warm the ammonia as it's pumped out and fed into a chemical reactor where the catalyst breaks down some ammonia into hydrogen. The ammonia-hydrogen mixture is then fed into the jet engine where it burns like conventional fuel, although the emissions consist mainly of nitrogen and water vapor. And I won't go on, but that's basically the story, which is interesting, except the question comes down, as I alluded to at the beginning, is where do you get the ammonia from?
Yeah. Well, there is that, and also, as I say, one of the things that John actually absolutely loved this story, but again, sort of like, as you say, boasting the ammonia sort of as being the green solution here is perhaps not as clear cut as one would like. You know, it's one of those worth probably doing a bit of a Google search if you are interested in this, as I say, because it's I won't go into details because there's lots of numbers and stuff, but if you are interested, as I say, basically ammonia is the NH3, so technically it is carbon free, but only in its chemical makeup, basically. But as I say, go away and do a bit of research.
It's a question of where you get it from, and it comes down to the first law of thermodynamics, in that energy isn't created nor destroyed, and it has to come from somewhere. And ammonia and hydrogen right now is harvested from natural gas. What's natural gas? Well, it's one of those terrible things that we don't want to use.
No, indeed. Suddenly we're in a vicious circle again, aren't we? Yeah, absolutely. The viciousness that is fossil fuels. But there we go.
It's worth noting the X-15 used ammonia as part of its fuel.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And it had very clean windows.
Yeah, quite. Yes, I mean, as I say, it's an interesting story nonetheless. But yeah, as you say, we need a little bit more. It's worth doing a little bit more research. But I mean, hey, anything that, even if it, recycling, getting more out of the resources that are there has got to be a good step, I suppose, hasn't it? So we'll see.
So the next story is on thedrive.com.
The Drive.
And I love this story. This aircraft is awesome. And there's a video to go with this, which I'm sure Matt will
Is
play.
there? Oh, dear.
But this is the potentially revolutionary Celera 500L aircraft officially breaks cover. Mm-hmm. So Otto Aviation's Celera 500L has officially come out of the shadows, and the company has now outlined its vision for the potentially revolutionary high-efficiency aircraft, including possible unmanned variants and military versions configured for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. The War Zone was first to report on this, the unusual bullet-shaped plane, after it was spotted at the Southern Californian Logistics Airport near Victorville in 2017, and has been following its secretive development very closely ever since. The announcement, which appears to be the first official statement from Otto Aviation, I wonder if it's like that inflatable autopilot guy from the airplane films. Anyway, Otto Aviation, on the Celera 500 to date, has coincided with the launch of the new website promoting the aircraft. The press release did not provide specific details about the aircraft's first flight or when it occurred, but says it has flown 31 times in total so far. In June 2019, the plane, which carries the US Civil Registration Code November 818 Whiskey Mike, was observed conducting what appeared to be taxi tests on the ground at the Southern California Logistics Airport, indicating that it could take to the skies soon afterward. The website says that it hit an aerodynamic efficiency proven milestone in the fourth quarter of 2019. Innovation at its core in solving problems without conventional bias. He says, our goal was to create a private aircraft that would allow for direct flights between any city pair in the US at speeds and costs comparable to a commercial air travel. William Otto Sr., the chairman and chief scientist of Otto Aviation, said in a statement. He says that in many cases, individuals and families will be able to charter the Celera 500L at prices that are comparable to commercial airfares, but with the added convenience and private aviation. He said that we believe that when the price of private air travel is competitive with commercial air travel, an enormous market opportunity will result. He says that we believe the Celera 500L is the biggest thing to happen to both the aviation and travel industries in 50 years, he continued. Beyond using our aircraft for passenger travel, it can also be used for cargo operations and military applications. And since the results from the prototype test flights have been so promising, we're ready to bring the Celera 500L to the market. Otto Aviation says the Celera 500L had a maximum cruising speed of at least 450 miles per hour, a range of over 4,500 miles, and it also has impressive fuel economy, achieving 18 and 25 miles to the gallon, according to Otto Aviation. A traditional business jet with similar capabilities to the Celera 500, including its 6 passenger capacity, typically burn a gallon of fuel per hour for every 2 to 3 miles of flight, making Otto's design dramatically more economical and as well more environmentally efficient and friendly. The company says that the Celeron 500L will have an unbelievably low per hour flight cost of just $328. Now, just to give you a quick comparison between the Celeron 500L and a comparable business jet of this similar size. So we're talking about the fuel economy of the Celeron between 18 and 25 miles to the gallon, which is opposed to the 2 to 3 miles to the gallon of a normal business jet. Operating costs per hour, $328, as we said, for the Celeron, or $2,100 for the average size business jet. And obviously the range being 4,500 nautical miles for the Celeron, with a range of around about 2,100 miles for a comparable jet. So it looks amazing. It does look really amazing. I mean, I know this is obviously the experimental model that's been thrown in, a prototype. But I did notice on the pictures and on the video as well, there's no windows for the passengers to look out of. But obviously this is a test model. But it would be interesting to see how this progresses.
Okay, now, Micah, you've just done a little share screen thing there, so explain to me this picture that you've just popped up here.
It looks to me like an old version of the X-1 aircraft that just kind of grew up, and it grew a pusher propeller, and it's gotten old, and it kind of has that same shape with longer wings. And as soon as I looked at it, I thought of the X-1, which was the first aircraft to break the sound barrier back in 1949. So I figured I would pull that up and point that out. What do you think? Doesn't it kind of remind you of that?
There's a lot of similarities there, isn't it? I mean, really, the only sort of major sort of thing I can see that's different for me potentially is that it's a bit flatter and a bit sort of, you know, it's and white,
a bit wider. Yeah, it's like the X1, grew up and got fat.
Well, yeah, quite. Yeah, absolutely. There is that to it.
That's not a bad comparison, actually.
It's a bit worrying. Yes, never mind. On that cheery note, yes. Okay, so we'll move on to the next story. Quite a short story, this one, but this one was a lot of fun. Great website, this airlive.net. As we know, we're a big fan of that, and it's the headline. It says, find out how Cargo Lux Airlines protect its Boeing 747-8s from coronavirus. So it's Cargo Lux Airlines International released a new livery on its Facebook account. One of the airline 747-8 freighters has received a new livery. The airline posted its very own mask on its iconic nose door, reflecting the airline's commitment to the fight against the dreaded disease. As I say, it's a very short story, but I just wanted to share it because this is I don't know, the geek in me just loves this picture. Here we go. So if you're watching on YouTube, obviously you'll be able to see it. If not, then you'll see the link in the show notes here. I just love this paint job.
Coincidentally, if you want to track this aircraft on your various tracking apps on your mobile phone, the registration of this particular Cargo Lux with this livery is Lima X-Ray Victor Charlie Foxtrot. So that's the one that's got this.
I must admit, I'm surprised that more people haven't done this off the back of what's been going on. Do you know what I mean? Sort of trying to, I don't know, just one.
What do you think of this? What do you think of this, Micah? Bit of fun.
Oh, it's a great time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does look good on the Dash 8, to be fair.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah.
As I say, I was surprised more people haven't done it, really, just because of we've got to. I think we're going to be living with this for a very long time, aren't we? So I suppose we've got to find ways of enjoying it.
I just hope that they got that mask from Tab Fabric, Pasadena Bryan's wonderful mask company, where all the proceeds go to
plug away,
go to the Pasadena Women's Shelter, So if you happen to be on Etsy and you look up Tab Fabric, you can get aviation related masks for yourself. Not that anybody would want to do that, or that Brian would necessarily want to hear about that, but I'm sure that he could supply those orders, and I'm sure that he supplied that to Cargo Lux.
And I'm sure if we ask him very, very nicely, he'll be able to send me a link that I can drop in the show notes so that people can also do something like what you're describing.
And not only that, I bet there's even a discount for PTUK listeners.
Oh, hang on, steady. He'll be furious with you now. You're busy signing him up for stuff that he didn't agree to, but we'll take it. Any discount, we'll take it. Right, the last story then, Micah.
I feel like we're picking on Micah this week. We're giving Micah all the low-cost carrier stories from here.
I was just going to say that. Matt used to get all the Ryanair stories. Am I getting the EasyJet stories?
Yeah,
Is that what's going on?
Because BA aren't doing a lot at the moment, and they were going to originally be Nev's stories. So there we go.
Well, a group of this is really. I think it's terrible and it's funny and I'm laughing at it as I'm reading it, but I'm not going to say the word, but a certain disease delayed EasyJet passengers who faced an unforeseen quarantine. And it turns out that a group of EasyJet passengers returning from Gibraltar are having to self-isolate for 2 weeks after a flight delay meant they were put up in a hotel across the border in Spain.
Mm.
The flight was due to leave on Monday, but was delayed overnight. EasyJet couldn't book enough rooms for all passengers in Gibraltar, so some had to spend the night in Spain. The UK's travel rules mean that travelers from Gibraltar don't have to quarantine, but arrivals from Spain do. So one passenger who was on the flight to London, London's Gatwick Airport, apparently Gatwick is still open.
Well, there we are.
Sent a message to the airline on Twitter calling the situation ridiculous. Alan Orme said, "My option is to move from a low COVID Gibraltar to a high COVID Spain. I can't afford to self-isolate. EasyJet, will you pay for my loss of earnings?"
Crazy, isn't it?
Anyway, the story goes on, but that's the basics. They ran out of hotel rooms for a delayed flight in Gibraltar. Some people had to be put up at hotel rooms in Spain, which is, I guess, normally something it's done all the time.
Absolutely.
But based on this virus, which will go unnamed, people who are coming back because they spent a night in Spain just across the border are not allowed to leave their homes for 2 weeks.
I mean, part of me sort of thinking, were they aware? I mean, because, I would have been, if it was in, if I was in those shoes, I'd be thinking, oh, flipping heck, I can't do that. I'd rather sleep on the most uncomfortable chair I've ever slept on, like in the airport in my life, than then have to unexpectedly spend 2 weeks in quarantine. I mean, I'm really surprised that people didn't query it at the time. Unless perhaps people didn't really realise, because trouble is, it's just a lot of these things, isn't it? Like the Norfolk-Suffolk border here, for example. You go over that border before you know where you are. You're in a different county. I don't really know the makeup of Gibraltar. Perhaps it's a similar sort of thing. You don't necessarily realise that you've moved from essentially Gibraltar territories into Spanish territories. That's the only thing I can
Nev's
think
the
of.
man to ask about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nev's been there.
We'll try and remember to ask him next week, hopefully.
Actually, one of the things, Matt, which you probably heard as well, and Micah, I'm sure you probably heard, was that when these quarantine restrictions came into place for a lot of different countries, the people were obviously struggling to get back to the UK before these rules were put into force, because some of them came in at midnight, some of them came in at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And some airlines, you probably heard, some airlines were not just doubling, but quadrupling the cost of a flight to get back to the UK.
Yeah.
Because they knew that people would pay the money to get back to the UK before the restrictions were put in place. Which is a bit
the
naughty.
almighty pound, it always comes up, but, now they're begging for money from the government.
Right. Yes, that is a thing. Yes, I suppose. So Mila's actually saying in the chat room, I'd rather be in a hotel room than an airport in regards to catching COVID from someone, which is a very good point, actually. I hadn't really sort of thought about it like that. But good news about good news from Brian, by the way, Carlos. You'll be delighted to know.
Yes,
Carlos, for you, I'll set up that discount code. Give me 5 minutes and it will be done. There you are. So Brian, send us the link and I'll make sure it's on the thing. Now, Tony, actually going back to the story, very interesting point here, very useful. Thanks for this, Tony. Saying there is actually a hard border between Gibraltar and Spain. You can't inadvertently cross it. So somebody had made the decision essentially to do that, which is I don't know. I don't know. I think if I was willing to go to Gibraltar in the first place, I'd have rather have taken my chances staying in the airport than then having to quarantine for 2 weeks. It's I guess I'm sort of in a situation where
it's one of those countries on my
I could work from home at the moment, so it's not an issue, but could be a big issue for some people, couldn't it? Absolutely. There we go.
And Matt, just a quick side note, and hopefully you can cut this out, but you're sounding a bit off mic or muffled all of a sudden.
Oh, am I?
You are a little bit, yeah.
Okay, it might just be an issue at this end. It seems okay on YouTube at the moment, so yes, fingers crossed.
That is where we bring the commercial news segment of the show to a close this week. But we've got an awesome little segment coming up now. And for those of you who've been listening to the show for a few weeks now, will have listened to and loved, as a lot of people have, the Plain Truth segment with Matt and Captain Al. And this week on the segment, Captain Al and Matt are discussing tyre punctures. So here we go.
Hello and welcome to another Plain Truth, and this week we're going to be talking about tyre punctures. Joining me today, as always, is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi, Captain Al.
A very good evening, Matt. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Yes, enjoying the sunshine.
Wow, you're lucky you've got some here. We seem to have rain back here where we are in good old Norfolk / Suffolk. But never mind. What can we say about that? Listen, I wanted to talk to you about tyre punctures. Actually, obviously, because all the cars, all the aircraft and stuff, they've obviously got like rubber tyres and stuff on their landing gear. Now, I've been driving a car a couple of times where I've had a tyre blow out. Now, what kind of impact does that have on an aircraft? Obviously, because there's lots of pressures and forces involved in the rubber hitting the tarmac, obviously at high speed, and I mean, for you're often seeing like puffs of smoke and things, aren't you, as they do touch down on the runway. So I mean, in the event of a tyre puncture, I mean, what impact does that have when you're landing?
Okay, well, tyre punctures in themselves are relatively uncommon. The thickness of the rubber on an aircraft tyre is quite thick. I could go and find some technical documents to give you the actual dimensions, but the actual thickness is quite a lot. And really that's because there's lots of debris that's around airports, so little bits of metal and bits of suitcases, stones, that sort of thing can all affect the integrity of the tyre. Punctures, I've only ever had one in about 25 years, and again, relatively speaking, as odd people often say, it was only flat at the bottom. Well, yes, that was the case. In our particular case, the puncture per se only became visible as the aircraft was loaded. So you'd say that the tyre still had some pressure in it, but obviously the weight of everybody getting on board the aircraft made it obvious. Now, there is an expression in aviation about kicking the tyres and lighting the fires. Now, if you kick an aircraft wheel, probably the only thing that you're going to reveal is the weakness of your own foot, because they're pretty solid. And you're not going to know whether you've actually got insufficient pressure in the tyre unless it's really particularly flat. You won't feel that by kicking it either. The tyres are actually filled with nitrogen as opposed to air, because obviously the tyres get very cold when they're in flight, so nitrogen being a lot more stable temperature-wise. So when we have a puncture, the wheel gets changed, as you would do on any other vehicle. And typically, for most aircraft, that can be done when it's fully loaded. Very much akin to how you would change the tyre on any other vehicle. You come along with a jack, pump it up, undo the bolts, or whip it off, put a new wheel on, and off you go. And any decent set of engineers can do a wheel change in about 30 minutes. Not the same as Formula One Grand Prix, but there are a few more bolts, and the wheels are a bit heavier, especially when you get up to sort of A380 sized aircraft. One of the aspects that is a consideration if they're doing a wheel change is how long it has been since the aircraft landed, because the brakes on that wheel will still be very hot. Typically the brakes get up to sort of 300 or 400 degrees Celsius. So you don't really want to be too near those components until they've cooled down a bit. It's quite a hot working area. Tyres, very expensive, like most things in aviation, relatively short-lived. They last about a week in a sort of typical short-haul operator. Yes, they get a fair amount of use in so much as when an aeroplane touches down, you'll see those puffs of smoke because, of course, those wheels go from stationary to rotating very quickly. Typical sort of landing speed is around about 160 miles an hour. So they have to be designed to deal with the impact of landing and then the spin up of those wheels. And we're quite environmentally conscious, so the majority of airlines will recycle the tyres. So the tyres will be remolded and put back into service.
Whoa, hang on, whoa. I'm sorry, what? Remolds? Now look, as a car driver, the one thing that we're told is don't waste your time with remolds. You've got to stick with, new tyres every time you is that just a marketing ploy or are they genuinely different?
I would say that they're genuinely different, primarily because the remolding is typically done by the tyre manufacturer. So we're talking about people like Goodyear, for example, a very big tyre manufacturer for aviation, and they will perform the recycling process, if you like. Typically on your car, you don't change the tyres or the wheels on a weekly basis.
No.
So that's where it comes from. There's a lot to be looked for in tyres when you're doing your pre-flight inspection, as it would be for anything else. You're looking for bulges, cuts, damage in other forms. You will periodically see the tyre being worn down to the canvas layer. What you shouldn't see is the tyre being worn down to the steel that makes up the carcass of the tyre. And obviously, like any other component on an aeroplane, airlines will like to try to get the maximum amount of wear out of the tyre before it gets replaced. And very occasionally, you'll see an aircraft with brand new tyres on. Unless, of course, it's come straight from the factory. Generally, new aircraft have new tyres on. But frankly, they don't perform any different to the remolds. There have been occasions in the past where aircraft tyres have shred entire layers. And obviously, these have been investigated because that's quite a significant failure of the tyre. And that has happened on new and remolds. So quite a lot goes on for tyres. I wish I could give you a price for a tyre, but it will be in the tens of thousands of US dollars for sure.
Gosh. So, I mean, in the event of, say, for example, obviously you've done your pre-flight check, you've had a walk around, you've taken off, everything's all fine. If you're in a scenario essentially where you're in the air, you're coming in to land, but presumably, I mean, are there pressure warnings and stuff inside the cabin in the cockpit to tell you essentially that you've got a puncture perhaps before you're coming into land? And what alterations would you make if, for example, your nose wheel has got a puncture?
Okay, well, that's a really good question. And the answer to it is a option. So if you want to pay a bit extra, you can have the tyre pressure monitoring system installed on the aircraft. And that would have been done at the time of ordering it from Airbus itself. So it's an option. And yes, if it's installed, you can see the tyre pressures. And it will actually show you if a tyre has deflated. With regards to making a landing with a deflated tyre, incidentally, the nose wheels aren't monitored. It's only the main wheels. It wouldn't really have any great impact on the operation of the landing itself. And you might not even be aware of a nose wheel puncture because, of course, large transport aircraft, there are actually two wheels for the nose wheel, and there will be at least two wheels per side on the mains. So you'd be a little bit more aware of a main wheel puncture, even if you didn't have the tyre pressure monitoring system. The airplane would pull a little bit. Having landed, you can taxi the aircraft with 1 or 2 tyres deflated. The only rules, therefore, is that you taxi slowly so that you apply less exertion on that part of the aircraft.
Fascinating. Captain Al, thank you.
If you want to take your knowledge to the next level, sign up for a subscription at the A320 Lounge. Our online video courses combine whiteboard-style lessons with full failure demonstrations shot in 4K in state-of-the-art simulators using a professional production team. Go into your next simulator session with confidence, having seen failures run in real time and with the background knowledge to answer any questions from your instructor. To get more information and to sign up, visit a320lounge.com.
I tell you what, we have a lot of fun filming those plane truths.
I know you do.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep dropping in every now and again, don't you? Yeah, absolutely.
I dropped it for those of you listening. I dropped in. I think was it this week I dropped in on you guys doing
last week, wasn't it?
Or last week? Yeah, last week.
We had Dan Holly with us last week.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So I dropped in on Matt and Al doing the recordings of the plane truths, and you
joined us. You joined us in the middle of a load of shall we say outtakes that I can't play out, sadly, when we were doing that, because it's fair to say I'm pretty rubbish at doing this pre-record lark. So
no, I love that segment, and listening to you guys together and listening to Al is wonderful, and I always learned so much. I mean, I always thought that the pilot had to pull over and go into the boot and pull out, a spanner and a jack and change the tire,
absolutely. Yeah. It's got, get the old hand jack out, pump it up a bit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun doing those, as I say, and actually, I mentioned Dan Holly there. We've got another couple of segments to look forward to from him joining us, talking about weather data and things like that, and also we had a chat about storm chasing, which I'm quite excited about sharing with you as well. Not slightly off topic as far as aviation is concerned, but it was a lot of fun. It's been good. Right, Carlos, I suppose we better do that grey thing, hadn't we?
Yes. He's not with us this week, as I said, but Armando has prepared us a little selection of military stories. So if everyone's ready,
oh yeah, let's
go.
Let's go.
So the first story on the military segment this week is on the warbirdsnews.com website. And sad news for us here in our region where me and Matt live, because this is not far from us. And a museum we all know and love here. So the headline, the Imperial War Museum at Duxford and the Fighter Collection announce relocation of the Flying Legends Air Show. So after a long and successful partnership of some 30 years, the Imperial War Museum at Duxford and the Fighter Collection are announcing this week that the Flying Legends Air Show will no longer be taking place at Duxford. Given the financial pressures which have resulted from the coronavirus pandemic over the past few months, the museum has been required to examine all future events and consult with key partners to ensure that, as a charity, the organisation is able to maximise income and remain financially stable. It was therefore mutually agreed that the TFC would seek an alternative location to host the Flying Legends, which will be confirmed at a later date. John Brown, the Imperial War Museum Executive Director, Commerce and Operations, commented that the Fighter Collection will continue to be a highly valued partner at the Imperial War Museum, and we are delighted that its collection of amazing aircraft will remain on site and continue to be displayed throughout the year. We are confident that the Flying Legends will continue with its success and would like to thank them for their entertaining audiences at the Duxford over the years. He said that we'll be making some exciting changes to our own airshow program for next year and look forward to sharing more details in the coming months. So for more information on the Imperial War Museum Duxford's airshow season, including tickets to this year's Battle of Britain airshow, just go over to their website. And there's also some exciting news events in the program for 2021. It's sad news. It's an air show that I've been to
this, didn't you? You actually found this story. You were quite shocked, actually, of the changes.
I mean, I've been to this particular. I've only been to this particular air show twice in my time of going to air shows, but every time it has always been a heavily attended show. There's always been packed crowds there, and obviously the Flying Legends display is one of the biggest ones of the year for Duxford.
Very much a highlight, actually. I think
it is,
isn't it? Yeah.
And to have that amount of warbirds in the sky at the same time when they do the fly past with the Spits and the Hurricanes and all the other aircraft, the P-51s, is one of the biggest. In my view, is one of the best shows, and it's a shame that obviously having that on our doorstep as such, because Duxford is literally only about an hour away, is it, Matt, from us?
About an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah. It's close to. It's not too far from us. It's all main roads, and it's a shame that that's going to be moving, and we don't know where to. It could move to any of the larger airfields within the UK, I suppose.
It'd be interesting to see what their plan is, isn't it? Really, I mean, they're sort of talking about that they're going to sort of, well, not replace it, but I mean, they've got plans of their own and stuff. And I guess at the end of the day, in the current climate, a lot of these decisions are financially based, aren't they? At the end of the day, they've got to, because we're going to be needing to do some kind of social distancing certainly for the foreseeable future. And big shows like that are expensive to put on, and you need those huge crowds to make it financially viable, I guess. So
also, wherever this goes, they're going to need a space.
They are going to need a space.
They're not going to be able to hold this at at Seething or at Beccles or one of the. It's going to have to be a substantial airfield here.
Well, of course, one of the most amazing things about our Shuttleworth visit, wasn't it? I mean, is what a lovely air show that was, because it was literally the world's first ever at that time. I mean, I'm sure other people have done it since, but it was the world's first drive-in air show. It was really quite a unique experience, wasn't it? I really enjoyed it. It was so nice to have a bit of space, and you were able to sort of set up your pitch with you, because we had a big picnic table and all sorts, didn't we? Just sort of setting all our gear up and scanners and goodness knows what else. So it's sad, actually.
We'll have to keep a good eye on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there'll certainly be more to that. So we'll move on to the next story.
I love this story. I heard about this earlier on in the week, and for you it's a tech story.
Yes,
and
which I'm terrified about, I'll be honest.
Quite appropriate. But as well, I just think this is great. This is like the whole the Terminator kind of thing, where the artificial intelligence against the human beings.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm nervous about it. But anyway, inhomelandsecurity.com is the website, and this is one of the stories that Armando sent us this week, actually. And the headline is DARPA's AI defeats Air Force pilot 5-0 in head-to-head competition. That's a scary thought, isn't it? Anyway, Heron Systems, the winner of a 2-year Defence Advanced Research Projects Agency competition yesterday, yielded an artificial intelligence system that managed to not only outgun a top current US Air Force fighter pilot — he's going to be so furious, isn't he, that guy, and weapons school graduate — but to score a flawless victory against its human opponent, winning all 5 dogfighting engagements. It's a giant leap, according to Lieutenant Colonel Justin Glock-Mock, another weapons school graduate who also co-hosted the live stream. The DARPA program, known as the Alpha Dogfight Trials, was designed to demonstrate the feasibility of developing effective, intelligent, autonomous agents capable of defeating adversary aircraft in a dogfight. In other words, if this were the movie Top Gun, Maverick and Goose would just have been smoked by an unmanned drone in head-to-head combat 5 times in a row. Perhaps most impressive is the timeline under which these teams rapidly developed their systems. In August 2019, 8 AI companies were selected for the competition. The first trial was held 3 months later at St Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory, an exhibition match allowing teams to test the simulation environment. The second trial, held in January, was the first to rank the company's teams in head-to-head competition. Companies went on from concept to reality in just over 1 year, demonstrating the ability to make tremendous gains with AI by rapidly redesigning, testing and revising their algorithms. But don't pop the champagne cork just yet. The Alpha Dogfight trials were a series of heavily scripted, simulated events. Heron Systems, along with the 7 other companies who made it to the finals, had perfect knowledge of the system and computer environment, a significant advantage over the human pilot and a departure from real-world flying. The pilot was forced to use VR goggles and non-standard equipment. In essence, the human pilot was forced to fight on the computer's terms, not the other way round. Commander Vincent Jello Alio, I swear they make these names up sometimes, a former US Navy fighter pilot, Top Gun instructor, and now the host of the Fighter Pilot podcast, cautions that we shouldn't read too much into this victory. Humans have been proven to excel in one more important area than facing off other AI. They know how to handle the type of uncertainty found in today's combat engagements. Combat does not occur in sterile, static environments. It occurs in 3D in real time, where the weather, your adversary, and a whole host of other factors come into play. Given the results of the Alpha Dogfight trials, it's not hard to predict that the US military will seek to push development of an unmanned aircraft capable of fully autonomous combat. The US Navy is already experimenting with Boeing's MQ-25 Stingray, an unmanned aircraft capable of launching and recovering aboard a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to provide refueling service for manned aircraft. Plans are already underway to to begin expanding that envelope to include persistent surveillance and possibly combat capabilities. Much more to this story, really. It'll be in the show notes if you want to take a read. But so we don't need to panic just yet that that the Terminator is about to become real. Then we haven't got to start panicking and sort of, thinking that Skynet is real just yet.
What do you think, Micah, about this story?
I think that it was a war game, and when you play war games and you know what the outcome is supposed to be, then you can do what you need to do. It was in a simulator. I think it's going to be very, very different if and when the time comes when you're actually in air-to-air combat or air-to-air training, and eventually artificial intelligence, which is what AI is, will get much, much better. But I think that we're going to see a lot of. It's going to take quite some time for it to improve so much that it truly is autonomous. And I'm sure we already use some artificial intelligence in our fighter programs, in our military aviation, but it's not totally self-sufficient just yet.
Indeed. There's interestingly enough, actually, if you haven't heard of it before, which I hadn't until now, Tony, who is the source of all knowledge when it comes to good podcasting, Tony Esther, saying actually the Fighter Pilot podcast is awesome if you've never listened to it before. So there you are, a recommendation indeed from a man who loves his military. Have you ever listened to it, Micah?
I've heard a couple of them, not in quite some time, because, after PTUK and APG and Airplane Geeks, I just don't have any more time left in the week. But I have listened to it, and it is a great podcast.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay, so we've got one more story left, Micah, and that is with you.
Yes, and it comes from the...
It's bad news for Jonathan Warner.
Oh, is
it? It really is.
It is.
Sad.
Oh, yes.
It comes from Gloucestershire Live and B-52... I hope I pronounced that right.
That's correct. Yes, no, bang on. Well done.
B-52 plane spotters heading to RAF Fairford are warned by police. And it goes on to say that it's not unusual to spot some kind of aircraft in the skies above Gloucestershire, especially with the likes of RAF Fairford nearby. But now, Gloucestershire Constabulary have issued warnings to plane spotters. An image of a notice from Gloucestershire Police was shared on social media, and in it, the safe and sociable use of roads, that's a quote, safe and sociable use of roads is encouraged, along with a plea for observers to park, quote, with the consideration of other road users, businesses, and the community. Apparently, a number of military aircraft have been spotted in the skies above Gloucestershire in recent months, including a Chinook helicopter, one of my favorites. That's not in the story, by the way, but it does happen to be one of my favorites. And a U.S. Air Force B-52 bomber. The notice from the Gloucestershire Constabulary reads, "We appreciate and understand the desires to come to this area to observe the increased aircraft activity. We welcome you all and hope you are able to enjoy your visit. We do value your presence as you are vigilant and do not report suspicious activity to us." But it went on to say, "We recognize the impact of such activity has in the local area and wish to encourage the safe and sociable use of roads. We are working with other partner agencies to achieve that aim. To this end, we request that any vehicles parked are done so with the consideration of other road users, businesses, and the community. We especially implore you not to park in front of any crash gate."
As you do.
Yeah, because everybody would or on any verge. We reserve the right to remove any such vehicle at the owner's expense for the offense of obstruction and report any driver for driving otherwise than on a road. Parking on pavement can be similarly dealt with. Parking on double yellow lines will be dealt with by enforcement officers from Gloucestershire County Council who are conducting patrols in the area. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. So basically, all it says is, think about where you're parking and be careful what you're doing and mind others.
Now, I'll be honest with you, the main reason why I chose that story is because actually Jonathan Warner was there, and the main, I'll hold my hands up, the main reason for wanting to cover this story is because during this week, and Micah, you'll want to watch your screen for this one, I was sent a video by Jonathan Warner that he took with his camera, and I don't know if you've seen this yet, Carlos, actually, and the whole reason for that story is because of this beautiful video. If you are listening to the audio version of the show, then make sure you take yourself over to YouTube to have a look at this. This is stunning. Look at this. How cool is that? How cool is that?
Oh, I just love the sound of those 8 engines. That's a beautiful sight.
Absolutely.
Love that B-52.
Yeah, absolutely. What a lovely video that was. Thank you, Jonathan, for sending that to me. Actually, as I say, I hold my hands up. That's the only reason, really, I wanted to cover that story this week, is because it gave me...
But, Jonathan, this is important. Don't get arrested getting those videos to us. Be careful.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't get into trouble. We're really not worth it. We're really not worth it. There we go. And that's it. That's the end of the military for this week. We have another thing that we'd like to go into. Many of you will remember, no doubt, that we ran a competition involving the plane reclaimers, and they very kindly gave us a voucher which was sent to Andrew van der Sarg. Episode 324 was when Andrew was on. Take yourself over to YouTube or listen to episode 324 if you haven't done so already. It was a fascinating chat that we had, and as many of you remember, we asked loads of people to send us basically stories about aviation in their life, and we had some fantastic entries in our competition, and so we're going to cover them as best we can throughout this. And this week, Carlos, you're going to read this for us, aren't you? It's actually one of the lovely emails that we received, and it came from James Dean.
So James Dean, thanks for sending us in. So James Dean sends us this story. So he says, "Hello, Plane Talking UK community. The year was 1992. I was 4 years old, staring out of the terminal window at London Heathrow. On the other side of that window sat the Queen of the Sky, a massive Boeing 747. It was painted in that beautiful early 90s United Airlines livery, the one with the rainbow tulip. I was in awe. The sight of that mighty machine was enough for me to temporarily forget the sadness I was feeling that day. This was the day I was moving to the United States, leaving my nan, uncles, aunts, and cousins behind. I was very close to 2 of my cousins that were similar in age, so it was very hard to say goodbye to them, not knowing when I would see them again. My stepfather was a US service member getting stationed back stateside, so my mother and I were along for the ride. Prior to that day, as best my memory can serve, I was not happy about leaving and remember crying my eyes out during our going away party, even telling my parents I wanted to stay with my nan. I did understand why this was happening to me and why did we have to leave. But staring out of that window, I immediately felt a sense of excitement and adventure. It was as if I was looking at that aeroplane and it hypnotized me. And although I'm sure I was still sad, that wonderful aeroplane gave me an immediate sense of calmness. Once on board, I remembered looking at the rows of seats that seemed to go as far as my eyes could see. I couldn't believe the size of this big hunk of metal that was about to lift us in the air and take us halfway across the world. With my head pressed against the window the entire time, we taxied out and blasted off. Although I was a bit scared of the turbulence on takeoff, the sight out the window was enough to keep me from growing too worried. We had to two flight segments to get to Spokane, Washington. The second flight, I remember, was at night, and it was on a United Airlines 727 from San Francisco. Again, my little forehead pressed up against the window during the departure. Seeing all those lights on the ground absolutely left me in awe. My parents were tired, but kept answering my hundreds of questions about flying. I think they were just happy that I wasn't sad and telling them I wanted to go with them without them anymore. I don't think they realized it, but that was first trip for me, and it lit a fire inside me. That was the day I officially caught the aviation bug. After that, every time we went flying, I would get excited the night before, just as I would the night before Christmas. We went back home 3 times during my childhood, alongside a few other vacations within the United States. I used to ask the flight attendants if I could meet the pilots, and most of the time I was able to. This bug got so strong and grew with such a passion for my aviation that most of my toys and books were aviation related. Prior to 9/11, I used to beg my mum to take me to the airport hours earlier when we would pick up my dad from the business trips. Those were the days when we were allowed to go right up to the gate without boarding passes here in the US. So I remember many hours just watching airplanes out the terminal window. That same state of hypnosis would come over me as that very first day that I saw the time of the Boeing 747. Every now and then I do wonder, what if I never went on that scary first trip that took me half a world away from my family? What if my mum never met my stepfather? And would I be sitting here today strapped into the first officer's seat of a Boeing 767 flying all over the US and the world? The things that make you wonder.
Wow, what a fantastic story that is.
That's just beautiful.
That was the surprise at the end there for me, was, as I say, there he is strapped into the first officer's seat of a Boeing 767 flying all over the US. And you say, and you wonder if it hadn't have been for that trip that at the time was probably very heartbreaking, to be sort of, flying over to this, leaving the family behind, as it were. I mean, as you say, it does make you wonder, would he be doing what he's doing now if that trip hadn't taken place? James Dean, that was a fantastic story. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Micah, I'm going to ask you this question now. What was your first ever aviation experience? What got you hooked into the world of aviation?
There were a number of things, and I was hooked well before this time. But what that story reminds me of is that this week, in fact, Wednesday of this week, was the 51st anniversary of my first flight ever.
Oh, okay.
I flew my grandfather, who at the time was 73 years old. He was a member of a group called the Survivors of the USS Memphis, which today actually is the 104th anniversary of it being destroyed by a tidal wave off the coast of Santo Domingo. And he crewed on that ship, and I met a number of the people. He would go to reunions from the people from that ship, and the reunion was in New Orleans. And I was 13 years old. And he said he was going to take me along. We had gone the year before in Memphis, and we took the bus. But that year, he said he didn't want to take the bus anymore. He was going to fly. And so it was the first time I ever flew, and I was so excited. We went on a Delta 707 from JFK into Atlanta, and then picked up a Pan Am 707 from Atlanta into New Orleans. And it was the most fabulous experience for me. And it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and my grandfather and I were in the first row of coach, but he heard that was the best. There was a bulkhead in front of us, and it was the first time my grandfather ever flew as well. And he was 73. He was born in 1896 or 1897. And I went to clear my nose. I would clear my ears. I went to close my nose, tap up my nose, close my mouth, and blow to clear my ears. He didn't know what I was doing, and he got so panicked, he ripped open the oxygen containers and said, "Do you need the oxygen?" He didn't know what was going on. It was the first time he flew, and I didn't realize it. He was nervous, and I said no, I was fine, and he slammed it shut, and nobody noticed. And by this time, it was 9:30 in the morning, and the flight attendant came by, and he ordered a double Jack Daniels.
As you do. I mean,
which he enjoyed his drink on occasion, but never at that time in the morning. And it wasn't until about maybe 40 years after that I realized that it was the first time I was ever with him when he was really scared.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, it was an amazing experience. And having shared my first flight with his first flight was something I'll never forget. We were very, very close.
What a lovely story. And it is, I mean, I guess obviously because of the age of grandfather, it was not sort of flying wasn't a regular occurrence perhaps like it is now. As I suppose you growing up, perhaps it was much younger and much more exciting for you, as where when you fear is something only experienced by the old usually, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was new to him. He was born before airplanes, when you think about it. And there he was, a man that was born before the age of aircraft, and had served in time in the Navy for years and years and years, and had even been aboard a submarine. But the first time he was up in the air, and he wasn't going to show me that he was nervous about it. But anyway, it certainly happened, and it was. Like I said, it was great to share that with him, and I lost him about a year and a half after that, and but I still think of him every day. And in fact, where he and I had the same initials, not the same name, but the same initials, and I was given his ring, and I've worn that for 50 years now.
Wow, how cool is that? How cool is that? Well, I've got to ask the same question to Carlos now. So, because it was a family holiday, wasn't it? Is what got you hooked on flying?
Yeah, it's going back. I think I've done the story about this on the Airplane Geeks when I was a guest on there many moons ago. But for me, it was.
Never heard of them. Who are they? What do they do?
Who are those guys?
Yeah, who are those guys? No, for me, Matt, it was. I mean, I was lucky. Very lucky as a child, having a sort of holidays abroad to various countries and stuff. So flying for me started at I was 5, I think, when I had my first flight on the commercial airliner. And one of the first flights I had, and that I can still remember, was on the Tupolev Tu-134A, which at the time was a converted Cold War reconnaissance bomber aircraft, the Russian-built one. If you look them up, the original ones had glass windows in the nose cone. If you remember the nose cone, they were very old aircraft, and that was one of the first flights that I took as a child. And I mean, I've been lucky enough to fly on pretty much most of the Boeing products, 727, 707. I even flew many years ago when I was probably around about 7 or 8 years old. I flew on the DC-10 with Freddie Laker Airways.
Oh wow!
On the SkyTrain, and I've got a photo somewhere of me being held up on the seats by my parents, and going back to those times. And then this was obviously the late 80s, early 90s, kind of, well, late 80s. This would have been the economy seats then, especially in the DC-10, because the DC-10 was one of the first of the wide-bodied age of aircraft. These seats in economy then were like your armchair at home, Matt. They were really huge. This is going back to a time where the foam in the seats was kind of, a really good foam seat. It was comfortable. And I'll never forget the interior decoration. The walls on the aircraft were very brightly coloured as well. But no, that was probably going back to my first memories of flying as a young age. And I can still remember one of the first times that I flew to Malta. was a time when Lucca Airport, the airport in Malta, they didn't have an arrivals lounge or arrivals hall or a baggage reclaim area. They had a shed with a large table inside the shed, and your suitcases would be loaded onto a tractor and a flatbed trailer, which would then be brought into the shed where you would all wait, and they would put all your cases on the table, and you pick your cases up and go through the airport.
Not entirely dissimilar to how Norwich is now, then.
But no,
that's really unfair. I take that back. I'm sorry, Norwich. Yeah, that's really unfair.
It's brilliant for, air travel. I just hope, and I really, really hope and pray that after all that's going on, that we have some kind of, air travel. I hope that other people who haven't had the chance maybe yet to fly commercially, because there are people around the world who haven't, who are not lucky enough to have had a chance to fly on a commercial airliner, especially youngsters now who are growing up, the children and stuff, now. I just hope they get the chances that we've all had as children to fly.
Indeed. No, that's true. Well, guys, thank you for that. That's really interesting. We're going to have to start wrapping up now. I'll do the social media links for a change, shall I? Just,
lovely.
Just for a refreshing change.
Before we do that, Matt.
Oh, dear. Yes.
Before we do that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, probably.
I just told you about when I flew for the first time in my memories, and Carlos told us about his first experience. Now, we know that you've flown more than you've never particularly loved it, but you've flown quite a bit. What was your first experience with it?
So, I'm trying to think. So, what should have been my very first trip ended up being a coach trip in the end, because actually my nan was very poorly, and she had like a brain hemorrhage just before. So we were originally going to fly out to, I think it's Cap d'Agde in the south of France, which is where we were staying. So we were originally going to fly out to there, which would have been my first ever flight, I guess. But I mean, we didn't really sort of do, so I would have been sort of 11, 12, I think, probably when that should have taken place. And then I think the following year, as I say, because we ended up doing that by coach, and then the following year is the one that I'm talking about, where we flew from Gatwick into Athens, which is where we stayed. So it was. I'm trying to think. Was it Zakynthos? No, my apologies. So we stayed in Zakynthos for a week.
Ooh.
And that was with Air 2000, which I've now since discovered was a blooming 757, for goodness sake. Anyway, but because I suppose because I never really had the passion like you guys did, so I didn't have the interest perhaps in it like that. But I mean, I do remember it was the first time that we all had our own, because TVs weren't a thing, were they? I mean, back then, like not sort of individually, but even back then, this Air 2000 had like an individual screen in each head, like in each seat, and you had the weird 2-prong adapter to plug your headphones in and all that kind of thing. So I mean, it was the first time that you were able to sort of sit there and pick your own TV. I mean, they were just videos on a loop, weren't they, at the end of the day, but you were able to sort of pick what TV program or show or film or whatever it was that you want to watch. I think it was about 5 or 6 choices. But and then we flew from there to Zakynthos for a week, and then flew from Zakynthos into Athens, and that was a very. I think that might have actually been I think it was a ferry trip both ways, if you see what I mean. So, where is the airport in? Is it in Athens? Is it in Greece?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, and as I say, and then it was a little boat ride that took us to one, because Zakynthos is one of the islands, and then sort of came back. It was, as I say, it was. My memories are not so much of the flight, ironically, and more the fact that it was the first time I'd it was a boat rides and all that kind of thing. It was, not really sort of more about the flight for me. As I say, it was because I just don't have the love of it like you guys do. I still wonder each week why I'm still involved in a podcast that talks about aviation when clearly I know nothing about it. But there
you're
we
learning,
are.
Matt. You're learning.
Learning. That's something about it. I'm being told by our producer, apparently, someone in the chat room has got some Stephen H in the chat room. Oh, there we go. Stephen H is saying that Air 2000, Bucks Fizz served with breakfast, if I remember correctly. Air 2000 tomorrow, today. There you are. Look at that. That's
they were a great airline. They were a great airline.
Absolutely, yeah.
Actually,
what happened to them? Do you know?
I think if I remember off the top of my head, I think Air 2000, I think they either merged, they were brought out by another airline, if I remember rightly. I think they were renamed, sorry, First Choice. They renamed First Choice.
Oh, did they?
Mm.
Okay. Actually, we've got a few people saying in the chat room here also. We've got Richard Adams. He's saying my first flight was in the back of a Hercules, and then not until I was 19. That's quite the memory, isn't it? My goodness. My goodness.
Actually, Air 2000, Matt, ceased operations in 2004.
Really? Oh, it became TUI, apparently, Stephen H. is saying. Yeah.
Merged with First Choice, yeah.
Oh, well, there we are. Anyway, look.
Actually, Matt, before we move on, I'm just going to... No, this is pretty awesome.
Okay.
We know we were talking or listening, we had the James Dean story and about him obviously sitting in that all-important seat, he was saying at the end of the story. It's worth noting, actually, that for those of you who haven't looked yet over on the Plane Reclaimers website, Andrew over there, who we had on the show as a guest, he's now got on there for you to purchase if you fancy it. For those of you who have really got the passion for aviation, you can buy yourself a pilot seat from a 747-400. And he's got a pilot seat and a first officer seat on there. It's the original kind of wool. It's kind of like the sheep's wool kind of covering on here that you can purchase. And there's a whole load of other bits and pieces on there from 747s, which he's added this week. Honestly, if you haven't looked at that website yet, I can't stress enough how blooming addictive it is, because you just want to buy things.
I remember. I think we were talking to Matt, weren't we, from the A320 podcast, and I think he was saying that he's probably going to get in trouble with his wife very soon because he's been anywhere. Anyway, lovely though that is, it's time to start wrapping up. If you haven't realised already, then basically search for us by using the tag Plain Talking UK on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The WhatsApp number where you can send messages to Carlos at stupid o'clock in the morning that can also be featured here on the show. That is +44 757 2249166. That's +44 757 2249166. Email podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. The website, the new website, www.plaintalkinguk.com. Why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? You get notifications when we go live, and you can help shape the conversation of the show by joining us in the chat room. Go to youtube.com and search for Plain Talking UK. On our website, don't forget also there is the Amazon link. If you use that link to do your purchases, and basically we're given a small referral fee from Amazon for that, which means you can contribute to the show by just doing your ordinary shopping. But if you do have a couple of pounds laying down the sofa, interestingly enough, Patreon now offer sterling as one of their currencies. If you are a UK Patreon, might be worth switching for that. Because basically we get a little bit more because we haven't got the exchange rate to worry about, which is, let's be honest, is not great at the moment. But Patreon, if you would like to be a Patreon to the show, then that would be marvellous. We've got some great supporters already, which we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because we know how tough things are for everyone at the moment, and we are eternally grateful for everyone, both from Patreon and of course PayPal as well. Several people give us donations via PayPal as well. Many people will be aware that Micah is involved of a podcast on a regular basis, and he's now going to tell you where you can find that marvellous show.
Well, on occasion, you might hear me on the Airplane Geeks, and you can find the Airplane Geeks at airplanegeeks.com. But if you want to find me directly, the best way to get in touch with me is probably on Twitter, and my handle there is @MaineFly. Maine like the state of Maine, which is MAINE. Fly like let's go flying, but Maine @MaineFly.
Indeed. That's it. Carlos, I'll leave you to do the wrapping up.
Yep, I want to just say a big thanks to Micah for coming on the show tonight. Thank you, Micah, for joining me and Matt.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very much appreciated.
Great to visit with you guys. I always love to do that.
Always good to see you, Micah. You are the family member. You are the family.
Part of the family.
And we're going to say a big thanks as well to every single person who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening as well. All the usual family members in there, plus some extras. Good to see some new people in the chat room. And don't forget as well, a big thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio podcast each week. And if you do, and you download through iTunes, and you've got a few seconds handy, it'd be great if you could leave us a little review on iTunes and give us a little star rating. That would be awesome, because we'd like that.
Ideally 5, obviously.
Ideally 5, yes, that would be nice. But yeah, big thanks to that and everyone who watches the show and listens to the show. So that is where we are going to bring episode 333, all the threes,
33.
to a close.
Oh, sorry, bingo. Sorry. House
To a close. We'll be back next Friday again at 7 p.m. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notifications. So from me, Carlos, here in my home P2K studios, and from Matt in the master P2K studios, and from our wonderful guest Micah over in his main studio. Take care. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Say bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.